Hi everyone. So for my book talk today, I'm going to be focusing on a particular theme, and my theme for today is loss or experiencing the death of a loved one. So I'm sure all of you at one point or another have experienced a loss in your lives, whether it was the death of a beloved pet, the death of a relative like an uncle, an aunt, cousin, or the death of even a parent or a sibling, hitting a little closer to home. So the reason I chose this theme is because all of these characters experience a loss in their lives and they cope with it in various ways, and they're able to, through coping mechanisms, they're able to kind of move forward with their lives and continue living instead of being stalled and just really super depressed. So the first book that I focused on was Bridge to Terabithia by Katherine Patterson. And as you can see, this won a Newbery Medal right here. And this is the story of Jess Aarons, who is a very lonely boy. He doesn't really know he's lonely, but he lives on a farm. He's kind of disconnected from his family, and he doesn't really have a lot of friends. And he realizes that he's kind of been lonely when Leslie Burke moves next door. And she is a very different girl than he's used to. She has short hair, she wears cutoffs, she beats him in running races because she's super fast, and she's just an overall awesome girl. And so they kind of form this instant connection with each other. So um, they become fast friends, and they find this little place by swinging on an old rope swing over a dry creek bed. They find this kind of like spiritual hub for them, and they name it Terabithia, and they construct this little castle for themselves. And this is their special place. It's a secret place that only the two of them know about, and it's their place where they can kind of escape from the real world and go into their fantasy land and be king and queen and reign over their domain. Um, so yeah, so they're just enjoying their lives, enjoying Terabithia, and then tragedy strikes, and Jess is kind of left to pick up the pieces. He doesn't really know what to do after he loses his friend. He's kind of lost, and at first he just denies that it even happened. He refuses to believe it because he's in so much pain. And eventually, the way that he's able to cope is through his parents. His family really is there for him, his parents and his little sister. One of his little sisters, Maybelle, who he always thought was annoying, she really is there for him. And just letting him know that they support him and they'll be with him through his time of grief. And after he doesn't feel so lonely anymore because he has this support system and these people who love him and care about him. So he realizes a lot of things about his family, a lot of things about himself, and a lot of things about Terabithia that he never really thought of before after losing his friend. So I would definitely recommend Bridge to Terabithia by Katherine Patterson. It's an excellent read, and I think everyone will really enjoy it. So the second book is one of my favorites. It's called Missing May by Cynthia Rylant. And this is the story of Summer, who's a girl who was orphaned at a young age. Her mother passed away, and she was kind of passed back and forth from different relatives. And she never felt comfortable, she never felt really loved in any of these families until she met Uncle Ob and Aunt May, who were relatives who came from West Virginia. And they immediately fell in love with her. They saw her as a gift from God late in their lives. They never were able to have children, and so she was kind of their late in life gift, and their daughter. So she lives with them, and she's loved and treasured by them for 6 years, up until Aunt May dies, and when she's gardening, and Summer is just at a loss of what to do. Uncle Ob is incredibly depressed. He doesn't want to get out of bed or get out of his pajamas. He's just kind of a ghost of himself. And Summer is kind of coping with her own grief, but also coping with the grief that Uncle Ob carries, because she's terrified that he's going to die of a broken heart, and she's terrified that she's going to be left alone and not have anybody again. She went from having a family, and she feels like she's just lost now. So she and her friend Cletus, who's pictured here, he's a school friend. I use friend loosely because she used to think he was very annoying for most of the book. They're trying to kind of bring him back to life, and he thinks that he hears a message from Aunt May from the great beyond, and so he goes with Summer and Cletus to Charleston to try and talk to a psychic and see if he can connect with her and figure out what it is that Aunt May is trying to tell him from the other place where she is. So I'm going to read a little excerpt from this book. I'm not going to tell you what happens at the end, whether or not they are able to speak to Aunt May. You'll have to read it to find out. But this passage is about how Summer was feeling right after Aunt May's death and how lost she felt. So it says, "Only this part of her death seemed right, the garden. All the rest of it seemed so wrong, and it has been nearly 6 months. We have gone through 2 seasons without her, and still I don't know what kind of life Ob and I are going to come up with for ourselves. We have not done much of anything since, except to miss May and hurt. I never would have thought us to be so lost. We used to be tougher than this." So they're in a really hard place, and they're trying to kind of figure out where they're going to go from here and what it is that will kind of make them want to live again and move forward without May. So this book, again, is Missing May by Cynthia Rylant, and I recommend taking it out of the library. It's awesome.